Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Association Transformation. Sadly, I am flying without my co-pilot today. Oh, co-pilot, how very appropriate given what we're going to be talking about. Elisa and I have been like ships in the night the last few weeks. I was unfortunately missing for the previous two episodes, and Elisa's doing what she's driving California to Virginia as we speak, so I'm not envious at all. If you are listening, Elisa, next time take me with you. It is just me today, but it's never just me. I have the pleasure of welcoming back to the pod Gordon Glenister. Hi, Gordon. How are you?
Nice to see you, Andrew. Yeah, very well.
Listeners will remember that Gordon is the chief executive of Membership World, and last week we had the pleasure of running the inaugural AI hackathon here in the UK, down in London, and I thought it was a tremendous event. I did. I thought I loved it. I mean, obviously because I was involved. I thought it was amazing. But I learned so much. How did you feel it went? Did you enjoy it?
I did actually. I mean, like all events, when you're putting your name to something, and particularly as an inaugural event, because so much of the events that we've done at Membership World have been online, and now we are
Mm.
looking to do more in-person events. You're always a bit apprehensive because there's a lots of moving parts in there. But I was wanting to think about, well, imagine I as a delegate, what do I really want out of it? I want to be inspired. I want to be educated. I want to network with people, but I also want to try and, we were saying before this earlier, so often when you're using tools, technology tools, you might be practicing or you're doing them at home. And as you get older, people are like, with all due respect, the two of us, you get,
Oh, hey,
you
hey,
get
hey! No, there's no due respect there. What?
Oh, yeah, or just me then. I tend to learn, and then I'm thinking, oh, why doesn't it do this and why doesn't it do that? Yet, as soon as I'm alongside somebody else, and
Yeah,
they're saying,
yeah,
oh, that's how you do it. Oh, right, okay. And
yeah.
I really wanted to make this a practical session so that people felt as though they could not only understand about some of the tools that were relevant to the jobs that they do, but actually be able to put some of them into practice. And I
Yes,
think we definitely found that that was the case.
we did indeed. We did indeed. For listeners who don't weren't there, all two of you. We spent a good chunk of time, um, with access to, gosh, I think we had access to nearly 2 dozen different tools that are designed for different aspects of our work. And we gave access to everybody in the room. We had a real a real problem solving afternoon in the sense that a lot of us are new. We're new to using AI or new to those particular tools, hadn't thought about different ways that they could be used. And actually that kind of that peer support, co-learning, immersive training environment. The buzz in the space was fantastic. The buzz, because you could really see a lot of people expressing their frustration at some of it. A lot of people expressing their amazement, but then you could really see those light bulb moments
Mm.
when people were really got to grips with some of the tools and realized the potential. And I think that for me was that was the nugget right there. That was the takeaway, is seeing people recognize the potential that we talk about, and everybody's talking about it, but to actually get your laptop out and to play with those tools and recognize, within a few moments, the potential was tremendous.
Yeah, I think as well as having six different AI specialists on hand meant that we were able to
Yes. Hmm.
use their knowledge and experience. And I remember one instance where one of the CEOs of one professional organization had created a prompt for her conference. And she thought she was pretty much there, it looked pretty good. And one of our speakers came and sat alongside her and actually improved it quite considerably to the extent where she got a far better result. and was so
mm-hmm.
incredulous at what had come out of it that she shared that with everybody else. I mean, and I did do a sort of small segment in there
You
about
did, yes.
a formula for prompting. And the reason I think it's so important, that's why we have prompt engineers now paid loads of money, quite frankly, because
Yeah,
it's like anything, it's good in, good out. But if you
yeah,
don't get those things right, then you're not going to get the right response. I think the other thing that we found fascinating is that ChatGPT still rules okay,
yeah,
despite the
mm-hmm.
plethora of tools that are around. We did actually find that some of them weren't as good as ChatGPT actually, even though they profess to be. So,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot to be said. What we learned from that is that it isn't all about these hundreds and hundreds of tools and you've got to get your head around all of them. No, you actually have to get your head around half a dozen of them and do
yeah,
more of a deep dive into them. Because
yeah,
if you think about Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, the reason why they are so good is they are pulling from massive data sources more than anything else.
yeah.
Um, and therefore, for me, it's about just using what we already have, but better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I did think that was, for me, that was a real eye opener, seeing the maturity of ChatGPT as an example, the quality of its language outputs,
Mm,
was significant. And it's one of those things you don't, I suppose, you don't really think about until you see it in practice. And that whole piece around prompting, it's funny you mentioned the chief exec that you referenced that I actually saw her yesterday and she was a week later still enthusing about her experience and reiterating that piece around prompts and
mm,
how the quality we talk about the quality or sometimes we raise some concern about the quality of outputs, but actually when we're talking about the quality of inputs, it's twofold, isn't it? Yes, it's the quality and the quantity as well of data on which the tool is trained. But actually, I think so quickly now we've evolved to recognize that the quality of the prompt that we're giving the tool is so significant. Gone are the days where it's gone are the day and these days have only been here about a year, but gone are those days of just writing, oh dear AI, write me a policy on X. We've got
mm.
to be so much more sophisticated in our treatment of and on our instruction and direction of the tool, and that again was a real eye opener. Particularly, for those of us in the space who've already been using AI, and to sort of think, oh yeah, there's a step change in our behavior required as well here.
Absolutely. And I think one of my suggestions to all the associations is, and I think it was really reinforced by the last speaker, was start small,
Yeah,
prove the
yeah,
case, and
mm,
then build. Because a lot of the time you might feel enthusiastic about, oh, let's transform our entire business using AI. Remember, you've got a number of stakeholders who don't necessarily share all your passion to change everything
yeah,
overnight.
that's right,
So,
absolutely.
and there's nothing worse than actually failing at
Hmm.
something when you've got other because actually if you fail as it, the chances of you then trialing it in something else is much more skeptical.
Yes,
So
yeah,
try smaller projects where you can get some meaningful results and then prove the case, get buy-in and commitment.
yeah,
And again, our last speaker, who is was an entrepreneur actually, and has his own agentic platform. That's another form of AI, which I think is really fascinating, where you're effectively creating digital workers within your organization. And what I like about it is that you're creating digital workers for specialist tasks.
mm,
Uh, and then you can also have this particular individual specialize, for example, in the financial payments industry, and
mm,
there's heaps of regulation required there. So what one of these digital workers was doing was checking everything against regulatory requirements.
Mm.
And then on top of
Hmm.
that, you've got a digital team leader. So you've literally got a whole team going on.
Yeah.
Although it looked quite complicated on the screen, when you started to see the output and what was coming out, you thought, "Oh my goodness, think this is really transformational."
Yeah, and I think again, I think the language, because for a long well, when he was talking, and he was talking about digital workers, and I was sort of it was like I was looking around the room. Well, where are they? And it was like, oh, these aren't actual people. These are, and I think again, it's how we the point you made there about and he made about starting small, as the use of AI grows, so too does algorithm aversion, so too does skepticism, so too does the pushback. And so I think from those skeptics or those individuals who struggle with with the speed and the pace of change, and I think that was an incredibly important lesson and message, as was the whole piece around the standardization or the standardized use rather of AI within one corporate entity or within one team
Mm,
environment, because I hadn't really thought about it in those terms. But when someone said, well, actually, Andrew, if you're looking to solve problem X and you type in A, B, and C into the prompt, and you're going to come up with, it'll churn out what you need. But Gordon could be looking for exactly the same solution, but will be typing in, D, E, and F, and it'll
absolutely.
churn out something different. And you thought, God, yeah, actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
hence
Yeah.
that I was just thought, of course it will, of course it will. It's like
Yeah.
the, asking for the same answer but with different questions. You
I
know?
know, I know, I know, and I think so. There's definitely there's some safeguards that need to be implied, including, I might add, policies that need to be set up
Oh yeah,
for
yeah.
ensuring that employees don't unwittingly create privacy laws.
Hmm.
I had
Hmm.
an instance recently where I was doing a report on the safe and responsible use of AI. Um, and one of this lady that I spoke to was a data controller for an industry body in the financial sector, actually. And she said that one of her membership team members was, I think, about to, or whether or not she did, I can't remember, but uploading the membership database with a
Oh,
view of analyzing it and reviewing it, not knowing, of course, that it was in the public domain, and effectively you're uh, training ChatGPT on that data, which could be exposed,
so they were
which is
using the free tool. They were using the free tool or the open tool, as it were, instead
the
of
open.
buying in their own. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah, that piece around understanding open systems and closed systems
Mm.
is so critical. It's so critical, as is the piece around, and I was really pleased. And actually, now I'm thinking about it, so far, every AI session I've attended, both, obviously with Membership World, but I've done some others as well online. Everybody is conscious about the piece around ethics, um, the piece are the legalities around it, the piece around intellectual property. What I did think was timely, but also quite hilarious. This morning, I was reading an article that OpenAI is suggesting that the Chinese firm, no, what are they called? Deep. What's the new tool that came out last week?
Deep seek.
DeepSeek. The DeepSeek actually, OpenAI is looking to determine whether DeepSeek they actually used intellectual property of OpenAI's and have basically copied that
Oh my
that tool,
goodness.
which I thought was ironic because yesterday I was listening to a radio program where they were talking about OpenAI using the intellectual property of artists and academics to train the data on. And I thought, wow, now there's a legal headache right there. You can't, on the one hand, be saying we need access to everybody's data, regardless of IP,
Exactly.
but then be complaining that someone has taken your IP and built something else with it. So, I mean, the whole piece is, I think we're watching in very speedy, real time, a technological revolution. We live in it. um, which I don't think very many people throughout history have had the experience of seeing it at such pace. And this is fascinating to see.
Evolved. It
Yeah,
is fascinating. I mean, look, do you remember what happened with Hollywood when the script writers went on strike because they realized that some of these
yeah,
AI tools can pretty much create songs and movies,
yeah, uh-huh.
and do them out of jobs.
Yes,
And they were so, like, please write a musical or write a song in the form of,
yeah,
a famous artist or something. And you think, oh my God, it sounds just like the original. And for
yeah,
songwriting, that's their career down the Swanee, and they've used their copyright in a way to enable that new version
yes, yes,
to be there. So I do think like anything new, it's risky, it's exciting, it's challenging, it's provoking, it's all of those adjectives really. But I think we shouldn't stop learning, and I think the more,
exactly.
even if we learn on the chat GBTs and the co-pilots and the Geminis of this world to start with,
Yeah,
then we'll become better at what we do. We become more proficient, uh,
absolutely.
and yeah, win more business.
I think for me, probably the most disappointing part of the day was one speaker demonstrated that by recording his presentation, he turned it into a podcast,
Yes.
and the person sat next to me just sort of tapped me on the arm and said, "Yes, but it's okay, it's okay." They must have seen the look on my face because they said it didn't have the human element that association transformation does. I thought, oh my God.
Oh
But
dear.
that aside, I thought it was an excellent exposition into artificial intelligence. And are there plans? Is Membership World running more? Are we going to talk more about AI with
Yeah.
Membership
Well,
World? Yeah.
absolutely. And I think, like anything new, you can always look at it and say, look, we can make some improvements here, and there. But we got such great feedback overall. We like, the majority of the format, and so we will be doing more of them later in the year for sure.
Brilliant.
We'd also like to explore the idea of taking this to other parts of the world, including, in the States, and being
Okay.
able to pretty much organize an AI hackathon for an association for their members, so that
Oh.
all the organization has done out of it. We will, you and I have got a considerable amount of experience already on
Mm.
AI, specifically for this sector. So I think there's all sorts of opportunities there for us to explore. But I think it just brings a much more wider question, and that is around immersive events.
Yeah.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty tired of just going and being spoken at and talked at for hours and hours on end, where I feel like I've got sort of content overload. I come
Yeah.
back to the office and I know everybody I speak to says the same. Isn't it better that we share less and we actually execute more? So we do
Yeah.
it, so we come away thinking, not only have I learnt, but I've actually put into practice and I've gone away, enabled to make almost a return on my day's investment there
Yeah.
and then.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Well, this sounds to me as if there's a lot of opportunity. Well, I know there is. There's a ton of opportunity, and as we move on through 2025, keep checking out membershipworld.com and membershipworld.co.uk, depending where you are in the world. Also check out.
.co.uk at the moment, but it is going to change with a new
Okay,
URL, uh,
okay.
only because we're keen to expand our offering a lot more into the States this year.
Brilliant. Excellent. Um, yeah, and so keep watching. Sign up for Gordon's newsletter on the Membership World website. Connect with Gordon on LinkedIn. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that he's got all his tags, all his name tags on the screen. Gordon, you never fail to rock up with loads of branding. Are you actually wearing your GG shirt as well there? Are you or not? Have
No,
you?
I'm not today.
No.
No, I'm
Well, look,
not.
it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you for joining us again. I really appreciate you taking the time. I really appreciate you setting up the hackathon in the first place, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where this takes us in 2025. And um, hopefully, Elisa, well, I know she will be back next week. I'm very much looking forward to seeing. I think it might even be just the second time this year that we'll have recorded a pod next week. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing you when you return, Elisa. Well, yeah, hopefully this has inspired you to crack open your laptops, start playing around with some AI tools. Definitely take a look at the more mature tools. I think you'll find those immediately rewarding. Um, and don't forget to effectively prompt. I'm going off now to find a job as a prompt engineer. Who knew that even existed? So maybe that's a way. Maybe that's a way to make some money. Who knows? But until next time, put your members and your mission first.